Hi everyone, my presentation is going to be on Act 82 and I'm focusing on how did Pennsylvania's current teacher evaluation system come to be. So I thought we'd start with just a quick overview of what Act 82 actually is. So it's a response to federal level changes in how teachers are evaluated. And after some of the federal programs that came down, Act 82 got passed and it mandated that teacher evaluation tools in Pennsylvania were to judge teachers by 50% classroom observation and 50% student performance measures. I'll get more into the details of what's actually going on in those numbers, but just to give you an overview of what Act 82 is. So before we go more into that, let's take a look at what is the problem that Act 82 was created, what was it trying to solve. So identifying the problem, going back to 1983 when A Nation at Risk was written is the best place to start. So A Nation at Risk told that our nation's schools were falling behind other countries' education systems. And it was kind of the first warning sign that educational decisions that were once made almost solely on the state level were now going to have some national level involvement. And thinking about the values that are involved in a move like this, bringing in the federal level to help out with state level decisions and local level decisions, they're really striving for equality, looking at our education system versus other countries' education systems. We want to make ours the best that we can, so we can provide the best education to the citizens of our country and compete with other countries, but also thinking about equity, allowing each individual state to make decisions about their education system. We end up having a lot of differences, so looking for this equity of making sure that everyone has the same opportunities regardless of what state they go to school in, and also making sure that the funds exist so that states can compete with one another. So that's kind of the problem we were seeing in A Nation at Risk. It's a good place to start where that problem came from. So the first solution starts at the federal level. There's, again, federal level involvement coming in. Federal policies were enacted that would directly impact instruction in the classroom. And again, this is one of the first times. Federal policies up until now were more about making sure that everyone gets an equal education, looking at the equity side, but this is where they're coming in a little bit more for the quality. So it started in 2001 with No Child Left Behind. And No Child Left Behind, one factor of it was that I kind of saw teacher evaluation as something that could be standardized across the entire nation, and saw standardized test scores as a big piece of this. So in 2009, Race to the Top built on the work done by No Child Left Behind, and they added funds that would encourage states to meet the mandates that No Child Left Behind was trying to incorporate, and also building on them. So one mandate that is important to Act 82 is requiring student growth to be based on statewide assessments. So that's kind of what it looked like at the federal level, and then we come down to the state level response. So if we look at it specifically in Pennsylvania, after these national mandates were made, Pennsylvania started responding. In May of 2010, the governor of Pennsylvania and the state secretary of education of Pennsylvania submitted an application to receive some of those Race to the Top funds. In December of 2011, Pennsylvania received those funds, and this was kind of their commitment to that national program. It meant that they had to start making changes to their state level programs, their state level policies that would follow the things that they agreed to with Race to the Top. And then in June 2012, Act 82 is passed in the Pennsylvania General Assembly, and this is where we get the update to the teacher evaluation policy in Pennsylvania. That's the biggest part of Act 82 that we're going to be focusing on. So that's kind of that federal and state level things that came down to kind of have Act 82 happen. And then obviously when something changes at the state level, there's going to be a lot of local response. So I'm going to look at one example of kind of how the local level responds to this. So how does each school district make changes based on Act 82? So to best implement these state level changes, school districts had to come up with a plan of how they were going to teach their teachers all of these changes, how they were going to hold themselves accountable to the state level mandates. So I'm going to take a look at the Erie School District to give you one example of what that looked like. So in 2013, after Act 82 had been passed, they took time to create an educator effectiveness committee, and their job was to make sure that their school is meeting everything involved with Act 82. The committee created a PowerPoint to present at their November in-service. That was kind of their big rollout, saying these are all the changes that are happening. Then they continued to hold monthly meetings throughout the year of 2013 to make sure that they were doing all the things with Act 82 correctly. And then each year they created an educator effectiveness handbook and updated each school year to make sure any other changes, and if there were troubles with how they were rolling it out, their new policies. So the local level, there's a lot going on there whenever something changes at the state level, and now as we're looking back at the federal level as well. So to take a look at Act 82's impact on teachers in Pennsylvania, So the teacher evaluation system is now required to include student test data as a measure of teacher success. And again, thinking about the values involved here, like they're looking for quality. They want to make sure that we have quality teachers, that we're measuring them with the best things that we can, and test data with all the standardized testing coming in, tracking it is something that they saw is valuable at this time. So what that looked like was 50% classroom observation and 50% student performance based on multiple measures. So that multiple measures part is just saying that it's not all standardized test scores. There's building level measures, there's teacher specific data, which is a student learning objective in the state of Pennsylvania, kind of a self-assessment that you make throughout the year, and then you have that standardized test. And then as far as the classroom observation part, there's not a specific number of observations that are mentioned throughout. 0, 1, or 2 are kind of the most common. And then the observation model that's used, Danielson is the most frequently used, but again, not as stringent in that category as with the student performance measures. And they also, along with that, as we looked at the example on the local level, the state level created the teacher effectiveness manual. And that's that state level support, making sure that it's getting implemented properly. So whenever they're coming up with these new policies, they want to make sure that the rollout can happen smoothly. So that's our impact on teachers. And again, this is a huge impact for them. What they're going to be judged by to see whether or not they have a job next year, to see how much they're getting paid or they're getting raises. So this impacts teachers on the ground a lot because they need to make sure that they're now adhering to these new mandates and following the rules of this system. So just like all the other policies that have been enacted at the federal level, at the state level, after it gets rolled out, they try to see how well it's going and then make changes and tweaks, because anytime a new policy comes out, it does not come out completely perfectly. So in 2015, the Every Student Succeeds Act was passed at the national level. And this was in response to seeing how things like Race to the Top and No Child Left Behind were working. And that student test data that was brought in was rolled out almost as quickly. So there was a movement away from using student test data as a teacher evaluation data point, kind of a move back to the importance of classroom observation. So the change of Every Student Succeeds Act would be 70% classroom observation instead of 50, and only 30% student performance based on those multiple measures again, this time removing the student test data. So 15% on your school performance profile and 50% on teacher-specific learning objectives. And then again, just like with Act 82 and the other federal level changes, Pennsylvania Department of Education created the ESSA transition manual, and again, that state level support that's coming in. So we kind of see how Act 82 came as a result of some federal level changes, how it got implemented at the state, how we looked at those values that are supporting it, and kind of where we're at now. So questions will be continue to ask of whatever is being implemented, whatever new policies we're looking at, but specifically with Act 82, we're trying to figure out how do we best assess our teachers in the classroom. So all those different manuals, all those supports can be found in these references if you need to take a look back at any of it. Thank you for listening to my presentation.